What up YouTube, Spike Robert here with another video, and this time it's another entry in my games I don't enjoy playing series. And this time we're going to talk about Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 is the third installment in the Max Payne franchise that was released in North America on May 15th, 2012, and 3 days later in the PAL regions for the Xbox 360 and the PS3. But it was released on PC on May 29th of the same year in North America and June 1st in PAL regions. I have to say, this is the weakest game in this series. That hurts to say because I love the first two games, but this one is just not as good. I'm going to explain in detail why I didn't enjoy it that much. For the first time in this series, we are actually going to talk about the gameplay first. Why? Well, to be honest, I don't have a lot to say about it. You will start to realize why when we get into the story. The gameplay is a pretty fucking huge downgrade from the first two games. Why? There's a fucking cover system. This one change actually comes with a significant amount of problems. The game still uses bullet time, but every time I've tried to use bullet time, it really fucks me up in shootouts. It just isn't a viable option most of the time. Also, they got rid of the whole system where you could carry all your weapons together. I think you can only carry like 2 weapons at a time, and even then, you can only use 1 weapon at a time. That is fucking stupid. Another problem is the weapon wheel. Another problem is there's a weapon wheel, but it is so goddamn broken. At least on the Xbox 360 one, which is where I played it. There's no real way to swap to a weapon that you want. You have to drop the weapon you currently have in order to use it. Not only is this really fucking bad design, it actually got me killed in certain levels. That's another problem. The levels are much harder than the ones in the first two games. Yeah, there were some hard levels in the first two games, but most of them were at the later half of the game. Here, the second and third levels are just way too hard. And the developers knew this because the game has kind of an auto challenge tuning feature. What I mean is, when the game knows you are sucking at these levels, when you have to try these parts again, it actually gives you more ammo for your weapons. And even gradually gives you more painkillers, and it does these both gradually. I mean, it is better than having to do it the same way throughout the game, and I appreciate that it does this, but this problem could have been avoided if either they just gave you the higher ammo and the painkillers every time you have to try again, or if they just made the levels easier. Rather than actually fixing the problems, they implemented this convoluted bullshit of seeing how well you're doing in these stages and making them harder or easier depending on that. Alright, now time for the story. But surely you can't have a lot to say about the story, can you? You have no idea. So the premise of this game is that Max is tasked with going to Brazil to protect some Brazilian girls from some scummy bastards. Now, I actually think the idea for this game is a pretty good one and could make for a good story. I just think the execution could have been better. First of all, they focus a lot on the story. In fact, I think there are more cutscenes than there is gameplay. This might have been tolerable if the story is as good as the first two games, but it is not. The main issue that I have with the story is the character of Max Payne in this game. Now, I don't think they necessarily changed his character, but they tend to emphasize a lot of his nastier qualities. He drinks a lot of beer and uses a lot of painkillers to the point of addiction. He's extremely pessimistic to the point where he can't even seem to enjoy anything, not even drinking or using painkillers. I don't even know what his motivation for continuing the job is. Oh, other than the fact that he thought it was a good idea at the time, which is a fucking lame excuse. I mean, don't get me wrong, Max Payne in the first two games was very pessimistic and used a lot of painkillers, but he still had clear motivation for what he was trying to accomplish. and he was capable of coming up with plans that end up working. In Max Payne 3, most of the time, there's always something about these plans that goes wrong. He can't even seem to think things through, and he knows that these plans probably won't work. As the mysterious Mr. Enter would say, pointing out your problems doesn't make them go away. Alright, for example, in the third level, the very first thing that happens is that Max Payne gets shot by a sniper. And the first bit of gameplay is you slowly walking toward the medical station in the stadium, which is pretty fucking pathetic, and it is just not very interesting gameplay. But the whole point of the level is to save the other girl who got captured by the drug dealers. But in a cutscene in the middle of the level, they just straight up kill the girl. That one moment ruins the player's sense of accomplishment, meaning that this whole level was for nothing. Now it is all about surviving. But I think the problems with this story come down to the people who wrote the dialogue. The people who wrote the dialogue are the same motherfuckers who wrote Grand Theft Auto 4. To be honest, I don't think these guys really have an eye for writing Max Payne. The dialogue in this game is a lot more sarcastic and vulgar than the first two games. Half the dialogue seems more like a really unfunny parody of the story they're trying to tell. There are constant sarcastic quips about how shit this job is starting to turn out and how poorly it is going. But after a while, it just gets old. Also, Max cusses way more than he did in the first two games, which, is understandable. If you're in a job that is not going well and you're dealing with the scum of the fucking earth, go ahead, man. Let out all the F-bombs. But whoever made Max Payne say the dumb American line can go fuck themselves. But half the time, Max is just showing utter disdain for everything and anything that he comes across in these environments. To be fair, the music in the club is not really all that good, and some of the people in there do kind of come across as, oh, I'm a frat boy douchebag who thinks he's so cool and has a lot of money and parties a lot and fucks women with his micro penis. The gangs in the New Jersey bar are bastards, but the guy in the Brazilian club is actually pretty cool, to be honest. Even if he's a little annoying. Sometimes. At least Max does try to protect women from getting hurt, which is something that is in character. But the fact that Max Payne is so bitter and pessimistic is a terrible, to this extent, is a terrible precursor to how a lot of older men in movies from the late 2010s and early 2020s are like. They're always weak and depressed and failures. If this game came out during that time, I don't think it would have been as well liked. I'm going to mention this briefly, but Chapter 8 has dialogue from Max Payne that completely ruins the ending of Max Payne 2. There's a great video called A Critique of Max Payne 3 by Mr. No Life, and he explains why that scene is insulting way better than I possibly could. I'll give a link in the description, but the only thing I have to add to that is whoever wrote that scene can go fuck themselves. That is another reason to dislike Max Payne 3. Honestly, the whole cover shooter thing doesn't really help this game stand out, because Gears of War did the whole cover shooter thing way better than this game did. Even the third entry was closer in spirit to the first two games in the Gears of War series. Gears of War 3 had the perfect ending. Humanity won the war and now has a future. All's right with the world. I have not played the Coalition games because fuck everything that they stand for. Anyway, Max Payne 3 was so disappointing. I will still enjoy the first two games, but this one is not a game that I would recommend playing. It feels a little more like an interactive movie than a game. So yeah, it's not Yeah, Max Payne 3 was not that good. Anyway, I'm Spike Robot. If you like this video, you can subscribe to my channel and feel free to support me on Patreon and follow me on Instagram. If you support me on Patreon, you can get exclusive updates on my next video. And if you support me on Patreon, and if you follow me on Instagram, you can see all the pictures I took in Venice, Italy, so go check those out if you want. I'll see you next time on the Freedom Jingos.
Anyways, anybody notice that the sky is falling?